my son Jason stood up at the board meeting and said, "Mom, the company has outgrown you. We need fresh leadership for the next phase," I felt like I'd been slapped. My daughter Melissa nodded in agreement, avoiding my eyes. These were the children I'd raised alone after their father died. The business I'd built from nothing, working 18-hour days in our garage while they slept upstairs. And now they were voting me out like I was some obsolete piece of equipment. I walked out of that boardroom with my head high, my severance check in hand, and a secret they didn't know. I still had one card left to play. 7 days later, when their fresh leadership crashed the company into the ground, that card became the only thing standing between them and complete bankruptcy. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Let me tell you how I went from fired founder to the woman who watched her own children beg for mercy. My name is Gloria Chen. I'm 58 years old, and I built Apex Security Solutions from the ground up 22 years ago. My husband David died in a construction accident when Jason was 8 and Melissa was 5. The life insurance barely covered the funeral. I had 2 traumatized children, a mortgage, and a business degree I'd never finished because I'd gotten pregnant with Jason during my junior year. What I did have was an idea. David had worked in commercial security, and I'd absorbed everything about the industry during our marriage. I knew the systems, the gaps in the market, the way most security companies overcharged and underdelivered. I took out a $15,000 loan against our house and started Apex Security Solutions in our garage. Those first years were brutal. I worked as a receptionist during the day, took night classes to finish my degree, and built the business in every spare moment. Jason and Melissa learned to be independent early. They made their own lunches, did their homework at the kitchen table while I cold called potential clients, fell asleep to the sound of me typing proposals at midnight. "We're building our future," I'd tell them when they complained about the used clothes and the cheap vacations. "One day, this will all be worth it." And it was. By the time Jason graduated high school, Apex Security Solutions had 40 employees and $8 million in annual revenue. We provided security systems for commercial buildings, residential complexes, and corporate offices across 3 states. I'd built something real, something that would take care of my children long after I was gone. Both kids joined the company after college. Jason got his MBA from Penn State. I paid every cent of that tuition, watched him walk across that stage with tears in my eyes. Melissa got her degree in marketing from Boston University. They came back to Seattle ready to help take the company to the next level, as Jason put it. I made them vice presidents. Jason oversaw operations. Melissa ran marketing and client relations. They were smart, ambitious, and they had ideas I knew I needed to hear. I wasn't one of those old guard founders who refused to evolve. I listened. I implemented their suggestions when they made sense. But somewhere along the way, listening turned into being overruled. Suggestions turned into demands. And my children started looking at me the way you look at furniture that doesn't quite match the new decor. It started small. Jason would roll his eyes in meetings when I expressed concern about expansion costs. "Mom, you're thinking too small. This is how modern companies scale." Melissa would interrupt my presentations to clients. "What my mother means to say is," as if I couldn't speak for myself. Last year, they pushed for a massive expansion, opening 5 new offices simultaneously, hiring 30 new employees, investing in experimental AI technology that was supposed to revolutionize our monitoring systems. I urged caution. We'd always grown steadily, sustainably. This felt reckless. "You're afraid of success," Jason said to me right in front of the senior staff. Dad wouldn't have hesitated. That cut deep. Jason barely remembered his father, but he'd somehow decided David would have been bolder, smarter, better than me. Against my better judgment, I approved the expansion. I was the founder and CEO, but I'd given Jason and Melissa significant shares over the years. Gifts, rewards for their hard work, ways of showing them they were valued. Together, they controlled 40% of the company. I still held 51%, but I'd also sold small shares to key employees as incentives. My actual voting control was slim. The expansion was a disaster. The new offices were expensive and slow to generate revenue. The AI monitoring system had bugs that caused false alarms, costing us 3 major clients. The new hires were mediocre. Jason had rushed the recruitment process. Within 6 months, we'd burned through $4 million in cash reserves. I tried to course correct. I suggested closing the underperforming offices, rolling back the AI implementation until we could fix it, letting go of the employees who weren't delivering. Jason and Melissa fought me on every point. "You're sabotaging us because you can't handle not being the hero anymore," Melissa said during one particularly heated argument. 3 months ago, Jason came to my office with a proposal. He wanted to bring in outside investors to inject fresh capital. I read through the term sheet and my blood ran cold. The investors would get 30% equity and 2 board seats. Combined with Jason and Melissa's shares and their voting proxies from certain employees, this would give them control of the company. "This gives you the power to outvote me," I said slowly. "It gives the company what it needs to survive," Jason replied. "Unless you want your ego to destroy everything you built." I refused. We had other options. We could scale back, cut costs, return to our profitable core business. But Jason and Melissa kept pushing. They went behind my back to other shareholders, painted me as an obstacle to progress, an old woman clinging to control while the business died around her. That's when they called the board meeting. I walked into our conference room 4 weeks ago expecting a routine quarterly review. Instead, I found 8 grim faces around the table. Jason, Melissa, our CFO, our head of operations, and 4 of our largest shareholders. Jason stood up. His tie was perfectly knotted. His expression was carefully neutral. He looked like a stranger. "Mom," he began, and I knew from that word what was coming. Not Gloria, not CEO Chen, but Mom. A deliberate reminder that this was personal, that I was being removed by my own blood. "The board has been discussing the company's direction. We've all agreed that Apex Security Solutions needs new leadership to navigate our current challenges. Your management style, while effective in the past, isn't suited to the scale we're operating at now." Melissa wouldn't meet my eyes. She stared at her hands folded neatly on the table. "We're asking you to step down as CEO," Jason continued. "We'll offer you a generous severance package and a position as founder in residence, a ceremonial role where you can—" "You're firing me," I said quietly, "from the company I built in our garage while you were playing video games upstairs." "We're transitioning leadership," Melissa said, finally looking at me. Her eyes were hard. "This isn't personal, Mom. It's business." "Who will replace me?" "I will," Jason said, "with Melissa as COO. We've already discussed it with the board." I looked around the table. These people, some of whom I'd hired, mentored, promoted, none of them met my gaze. They'd all agreed to this. My own children had orchestrated a coup, and everyone had gone along with it. "I see," I said, standing up. "I assume you have paperwork prepared." The CFO slid a folder across the table. Severance agreement, non-compete clause, transition timeline. They'd planned this down to the last detail. I took the folder. "I'll have my lawyer review this. You'll have my answer in 48 hours. "Mom," Jason started, but I was already walking toward the door. "Don't," I said without turning around. "You just fired your mother from her own company. The least you can do is let me leave with dignity." I drove home in a daze. The house felt enormous and empty. It had been just me for years since the kids moved out. I sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd written my first business plan 22 years ago, and I cried. Not because I'd lost the company, because I'd lost my children somewhere along the way, and I hadn't even noticed. Then I dried my eyes, poured myself a glass of wine, and called Martin Reeves, my corporate attorney. "Gloria," he answered warmly. "How are you?" "I've been better. I need you to review a severance agreement. My children just fired me." The silence on the line lasted several seconds. "They what?" "You heard me. And Martin, I need you to look for something specific in our corporate structure. There's a clause I put in the original incorporation documents back when the kids were in high school. I'm not sure if it's still valid." "What clause?" "The founder's emergency provision. I wrote it in case the company ever faced existential threat, and the current leadership was incapable of handling it. It gives me the right to resume control temporarily if certain conditions are met." Gloria, that's a Hail Mary. It would be almost impossible to trigger. Almost impossible, I repeated, but not completely impossible. I signed the severance agreement, $500,000 and the empty title of Founder Emeritus. I cleaned out my office, said goodbye to the employees who'd worked for me for years. Most looked ashamed, some cried, none had the courage to speak up. Jason walked me to my car. Mom, I hope you understand this isn't personal. You're a brilliant businesswoman. You built something incredible. But companies evolve and... Save it, I said, opening my car door. You've made your choice. Now you get to live with the consequences. What's that supposed to mean? I looked at my son, this man I'd raised, whose college tuition I'd paid, whose first car I'd bought, whose wedding I'd funded. It means you're about to learn the difference between an MBA and actual experience. Good luck, Jason. You're going to need it. The first 3 days after I left, I stayed home. I gardened, read books, tried to pretend I was enjoying retirement. My phone stayed silent. Neither Jason nor Melissa called to check on me. On day 4, I got a call from Marcus Webb, our former head of operations. He'd quit the company 2 days after I left. Gloria, I couldn't stay. What they did to you was wrong. I appreciate that, Marcus. There's something else. The Harrington account, our biggest client, $3.2 million a year, they're not happy. Jason promised them the new AI monitoring system would be operational by this week. It's not even close to ready. My pulse quickened. The Harrington Corporation was more than just our largest client. They were our anchor. If they left, other clients would follow. How bad is it? Bad. They've scheduled a review meeting for tomorrow. If Jason can't deliver, they're canceling the contract. And Gloria, between you and me, Jason has no idea how to fix the AI issues. That was always your area. After we hung up, I made some calls. I still had relationships in this industry. 22 years of relationships. By evening, I knew everything that was happening at Apex Security Solutions. The AI system was failing because Jason had rushed implementation without proper testing. The new offices were hemorrhaging money. 3 major clients had filed complaints about service quality. Employee morale was at an all-time low, and the Harrington meeting tomorrow would likely end with contract cancellation. Jason and Melissa were drowning, and they had no idea how to save themselves. My phone rang at 8:47 p.m. on day 7. Jason's name appeared on the screen. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Mom! His voice was strained, desperate. I need your help. I'm sorry, who is this? The CEO of Apex Security Solutions? The son who fired me last week? Mom, please. The Harrington meeting is tomorrow. The AI system is crashing. I don't know what to do. That sounds like a leadership problem. Maybe you should consult your MBA textbooks. Mom, if we lose Harrington, we lose everything. The company will collapse, please. I let the silence stretch. Let him sit with his fear, his desperation, his sudden understanding that an education and a title don't make you capable. Put me on speaker, I said finally. Is Melissa there? Yes, Melissa's voice came through, smaller than I'd ever heard it. Mom, I'm so sorry. We made a mistake. You didn't make a mistake, I said coldly. You made a choice. You chose to betray me, to discard me, to treat me like I was worthless. Now you want me to save you from the consequences. Please, Jason said. We'll give you back the CEO position. We'll announce it was temporary, that we needed your expertise for... Stop, I interrupted. I don't want the CEO position. I don't want to work for children who valued me so little. But I do want my company to survive. So here's what's going to happen. I outlined my terms. I would fix the Harrington problem and the AI system. I would stabilize the company. But in exchange, Jason and Melissa would sell me back 30% of their combined shares at a reduced price. The price the shares would be worth after Harrington canceled, when the company was in crisis. This would give me 81% ownership and complete control. They would remain as employees, not executives. They would earn their positions back through actual performance, not through blood relation. And they would sign documents acknowledging that I, Gloria Chen, built this company, saved this company, and owned this company. That's not fair, Jason protested. We'll be giving up millions in equity value. You're right, I agreed. It's not fair, but neither was firing your mother. Life's funny that way. We could hire someone else to fix the AI system, Melissa said, but her voice wavered. You could try, I replied. The meeting is at 9 a.m. tomorrow. It's currently 9 p.m. I'm the only person who knows that system inside and out, who has the relationship with Harrington, and who can salvage this disaster. You have 10 minutes to decide. After that, I'm going to bed, and tomorrow I'm going to watch Apex Security Solutions implode. They called back in 8 minutes. They agreed to my terms. The next morning, I walked into the Harrington meeting at 8:55 a.m. I'd been awake since 4 a.m., working on the AI system remotely, fixing the bugs Jason's team had created through sloppy coding. I wore my best suit, the one I'd worn to close our first $1 million deal. Jason and Melissa sat on one side of the conference table, looking exhausted and defeated. The Harrington executives sat across from them, expression grim. I took the seat at the head of the table. Gentlemen, I said to the Harrington team, I apologize for the service interruptions you've experienced. There was a temporary leadership transition that affected our quality control. I've resumed operational oversight, and I can assure you those issues are resolved. For the next hour, I walked them through the fixes I'd implemented overnight, demonstrated the now functioning AI system, and offered a 20% discount on the next quarter's services as compensation for the inconvenience. By 10 a.m., the Harrington contract was secured. Jason and Melissa sat in stunned silence. After the Harrington team left, I turned to my children. Sign the share transfer documents. Martin has them ready. Mom, Melissa started, tears in her eyes. We really are sorry. I know you are, I said, not unkindly. You're sorry you failed. You're sorry you need me. But are you sorry for what you did? For how you treated me? For throwing away your mother because you thought you'd outgrown her? Neither of them answered. That's what I thought, I said, standing up. The documents will be on your desks within the hour. You're both demoted to senior managers. You'll report to me. You'll earn your way back up or you'll leave. Your choice. Over the next 3 months, I restructured everything. I closed 3 of the 5 new offices. I scaled back the AI implementation to what actually worked. I personally met with every major client to rebuild trust. I promoted Marcus Webb to COO and brought in experienced leadership. Jason and Melissa worked harder than they ever had. Some days I saw glimpses of the children I'd raised, humble, willing to learn, grateful for the opportunity. Other days, I saw the entitled executives who'd thought they knew better than the woman who'd built everything they took for granted. Last week, Melissa came to my office. Mom, I've been thinking. When you eventually retire for real, I don't think I'm ready to run this company. I don't know if I ever will be. It was the first truly honest thing she'd said to me in years. That's the smartest thing you've said since you got your degree, I told her. Self-awareness is the beginning of wisdom. Jason stopped by later that same day. I owe you an apology, a real one. Not because the company almost failed, but because I forgot that you're not just the founder. You're my mother, and I treated you like you were disposable. I looked at him for a long moment. Thank you. That matters. Can we have dinner as a family? Maybe, I said, when you've proven that family means something to you beyond what you can take from it. I'm 58 years old. I still run Apex Security Solutions. The company is profitable again, stable, growing at a sustainable pace. I own 81% of it, and I've updated my will to leave it to charity when I die, with generous trusts for my grandchildren. Jason and Melissa will get nothing automatically. They'll have to earn it. Some people say I was too harsh, that I should have just helped them for free, forgiven them, moved on like nothing happened. But here's what I learned. Love without respect is just another form of exploitation. Family doesn't give you the right to take everything and give nothing back. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give your children is letting them fall and making them climb back up on their own. Jason and Melissa are better managers now than they were as executives. They're learning humility, patience, the value of experience over ego. Maybe one day they'll be ready to lead, maybe not. Either way, the company I built will survive because I taught them the most important lesson. Competence matters more than bloodline. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and share your story in the comments if you've ever been underestimated by the people you raised or helped. Your voice matters. And remember, The people who dismiss you often need you most. Make sure they know your worth before you save them.